Okay, assalamu alaikum. This is the second part of class 9. We were talking in the previous part about a poem written by W.H. Auden, which is Musée des Beaux-Arts, or the Museum of Fine Arts in Belgium. So he was describing the paintings. Those paintings were showing the suffering of people while the others are continuing their life and don't pay attention to. If you remember the paintings that we talked about, two of them were the most important. Three of them actually. The first one, the birth of the Christ. The second one was the crucifixion of the Christ and the killing of the innocents. And the third one, which was important, was the fall of Icarus from the sky. Now let's come to Musée des Beaux-Arts themes. The major theme or general message of this poem is about the nature of human suffering. إذن هي عن المعاناة البشرية. Auden recognizes that all humans have painful and traumatic experiences that can change the course of their lives. إذن كل البشر كل شخص فينا بمر بخبرات صادمة قادر على تغيير مسار حياته. But meanwhile, the rest of the world continues on in a mundane way, in a dull way, in a normal way. So even if you suffer at one point in your life, the other people around the world, they continue their life and they don't pay attention to you. Now, this is the first theme that we will talk about. Suffering is natural and human. So one of the key moments in the poem is when the speaker comments on sufferings, which he called human position. He called it in the poem as a human position. The speaker lauds the old masters for their perception and portrayal of suffering in their art. Throughout the poem, suffering and tragedy are envisioned in a number of situations. So he showed us the suffering of human beings and their tragedy in different pictures, if you remember. When suffering and other important events, such as, for example, the miraculous birth of Jesus appear, they are juxtaposed with ordinary events, like the fall of Icarus, for example. At the same time of his suffering and tragedy, falling to his death, we saw ordinary events, such as the shepherd taking care of his sheep, the farmer plowing his field, the trade ship sailing in the sea, and other ordinary views. So, for example, also, when Jesus the Christ was expected to be born soon, the children around the area were unimpressed and they were just playing and skating on an icy pond. In the first stanza, the poem references the crucifixion of Jesus as the dreadful martyrdom. So this dreadful martyrdom was taking place. However, even this momentous event, which is a tragic moment actually, or event, is taken in its stride, with the speaker remarking that it must run its course indeed. So the life was going on as normal. The end of martyrdom is described as being in a corner, some untidy spot. عملية الإعدام والاستشهاد اللي كانت بتصير كانت في زاوية من هالمكان في منطقة هيك مش مرتبة. There the dogs go on with their doggy life. So even the animals don't care about the killing of the Christ. And a horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. The poem doesn't minimize suffering as much as contextualize it. So here our speaker in the poem doesn't say that what was happening is something little or trivial or superficial. It's just he was drawing a picture for us to show us how there is a juxtaposition between the normal life and the tragedy of some people. So while some people are getting killed, other people just continue to live their life. So suffering is terrible, but it is also a natural part of living and being a human. The painting the speaker here refers to in shorthand as Bruegel's Icarus is actually called Landscape with the Fall of Icarus. I think we talked about this one. This title is significant in its presentation of information, okay? That landscape comes first, emphasizes the importance of the landscape. يعني هو كون عنوان اللوحة بتبدأ بلاندسكيب، okay? وكأنه التركيز what is more important here? The landscape, the natural scene, not the fall of Icarus, okay? If it were reversed, the fall of Icarus with landscape, the landscape would be only a background, okay? إذا لو إحنا العنوان بدأ landscape with the fall of Icarus، إذا الأساس في حياتنا الحياة العادية الطبيعية اللي ماشي بكل سهولة وسلاسة، بينما ظهور حالة معاناة زي fall of Icarus هاي مجرد شيء طارئ بالنسبة للحياة، which means that the life will continue and will not pay attention to this tragedy. But if we reverse the title and we started with the fall of Icarus with landscape, so what is the most important here? The tragedy of Icarus. What is the role of the landscape? It's just a background for his fall, okay? So the fall of Icarus is simply one event within a natural scene full of events, as if his death, his fall, is just a simple thing, similar to all the simple things that happen in this life. Auden chose to write about this painting because of how it represents a spectacular death as one natural element among many. إذا أودن اختار بالذات هذه اللوحة يتكلم عنها لأنها بتظهر كيف عملية موت أو حالة موت بطريقة غريبة وبشعة جدا، يعني ولد واقع من السماء، أوكي، وكأنه هي شيء جزء من الحياة الطبيعية، عادي، يعني عادي الناس كلها بتموت، وشو يعني حتى لو كان موته بطريقة غريبة. طيب the second theme, so the first theme was that the suffering is natural and human, okay? It is part of our life. It is similar to getting up in the morning, walking, eating, drinking, opening windows, okay? Cleaning your house, going to work, or dying. This is something normal or natural in our life. The second one is the universe is indifferent. لا مبالي، العالم لا يبالي. And this is true. Even if you look at what happens today, if somebody get killed in even in your city, okay, you say Allah يرحمه, may Allah be the most merciful with him, and you continue your life, okay? If the poem presents suffering as a natural part of life, it also takes pains to explain that the universe doesn't care. المعاناة جزء طبيعي من حياتنا، والناس والعالم لا يبالي بذلك. What happens to one person in a given moment may have little or no effect on that person's surroundings, while the dreadful martyrdom runs its course in an untidy corner, nearby dogs pay it no mind. The line that says the dogs go on with their doggy life is key because it shows how human suffering makes little impact upon nature. إذن بينما عملية إعدام المسيح ورفقائه كانت بتتم، أوكي، في زاوية هيك غير منظمة، أوكي، كانت الحياة مستمرة، حتى الكلاب كانت مستمرة في حياتها، حياة الكلاب تبعتها، وكأنه لا شيء مهم كان يحدث. So the death of one of us leaves little impact upon nature. A key example of this is the moment of Icarus splashing into the ocean. The speaker remarks that the sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green sea. The words as it had to demonstrate an almost tired sense of obligation on the part of the natural world. The sun shines on Icarus's legs and the ocean not out of interest or sympathy, but out of duty. Okay? So the sun shines, okay, on Icarus's legs and the ocean not out of interest. ما كانتش مشرقة الشمس وبعت أشعتها لأنها مهتمة للي بصير لإيكاروس أو بدها تضوي عليه ومتعاطفة معه، لا، لأنه واجبها إنها تشرق وترسل أشعتها. It is also worth noting that this is the same sun that caused the wax in Icarus's wings to melt. وهي نفس الشمس اللي ذوبت الشمع اللي كان في الجناحين اللي لبسها إيكاروس. After having condemned him to drowning, the sun passively watches his fall without any sense of guilt. يعني تخيلوا بعد ما سيحت الشمع وتسببت في سقوطه، وقفت هناك. So passively watches his fall. تسببت في سقوطه ووقفت بكل برود تشاهد موته. Another moment that demonstrates the universe's indifference can be found at the beginning of stanza 2. Here the speaker remarks that everything turns away, quite leisurely from the disaster. The everything that turns away does not turn away out of shock or horror. It turns away quite leisurely. إذا كل شيء بعد ما تمت المأساة، مأساة سقوط إيكاروس، كل شيء استمر في طريقه أو استدار في اتجاهه، ليس من الخوف والرعب والصدمة. No, it turns away quite leisurely، يعني عادي بلا مبالاة بسرور. Because it is not the least bit interested، لأنهم ما كانوش أصلا مهتمين. That Icarus drowns makes no impression on the natural world. Soon his white legs will vanish into the water. So this is the second theme. The first theme is that suffering is something natural in our human life. The second point is that so all of us at one point or another in our life, we suffer from something. We experience tragedy or suffering or traumatic moments, okay? The second point is that the universe is indifferent. The universe doesn't care about the suffering of the people, okay? It just continues to go on as it used to be, okay? The third one is that people are self-interested. Yes, people just focus on themselves. They care about what happens for them. They don't care about the suffering of the other people. So Musée de Beaux-Arts doesn't concern just an indifferent universe. It also explores how people are self-interested. This is not to say all people are selfish, but that they go with their own lives and keep to their own business. إذا بينما هنا the nature, the world, you can see the sun, the dogs, the horse, the whole life goes on without caring about the suffering from human beings. Also people, they are self-interested, not because they are selfish or they are bad. No, because this is our nature. We just continue to live. Early in the poem, the speaker remarks how suffering happens while someone else is eating or opening a window or just walking dully along. The nature of life, as the poem demonstrates, is that tragedy is a constant, and so people go on with their lives. إذن القاعدة في حياتنا إنه المأساة هي جزء من حياتنا، ولذلك يستمر الناس في حياتهم يسيرون فيها. The first stanza references the birth of Jesus, the Christ, the miraculous birth, in contrast with the attitudes of nearby children. The children are said to not especially want the birth to happen and are skating on a frozen pond, a carefree activity. إذن الأطفال بينما كانوا الكبار الرجال واللي عارفين عن ولادة المسيح كانوا بينتظروا في هذه الولادة العجيبة، الأطفال كانوا بيلعبوا وغير مهتمين بالأمر. In the second stanza, two images illustrate the poem's point about human self-interest. The first is the plowman. Do you remember the farmer who could have heard the voice of the splash of the water, who could have heard the voice or the cry of Icarus, but he didn't care. He continued to plow his field. Okay, so this is a very an instance which shows that human beings are self-interested. Okay, on the contrary, he considered the tragedy of Icarus as an important. He didn't consider it as an important failure or as something important to pay attention to. While acknowledging the tragedy, the phrase not an important failure shows that the plowman has his own priorities. كان في عنده أولويات. شو الأولوية عنده؟ ينقذ الطفل اللي مات في البحر ولا يحرث أرضه؟ لا، يحرث أرضه. The work of plowing a field is more important to him than the death of a stranger. وأنا مالي، ولد وقع من السماء وغرق. Another image illustrating this theme, which is that people are self-interested, is the expensive, delicate ship that could possibly save Icarus but has somewhere to get to and sails calmly on. The speaker describes how the ship's crew, طاقم السفينة, must have seen something amazing, okay, yet doesn't feel compelled to turn around and help. بيحكي المتحدث أو القارئ في القصيدة أنه مؤكد الطاقم تبع السفينة شاف شيء غريب يقع من السماء, amazing, okay, but they didn't turn around to help him. For the ship's crew, Icarus's death is a spectacle, not a cause for diverting from course. إذا كان بالنسبة لهم سقوطه وموته شيء رائع يتفرجوا عليه، مشهد عظيم يتفرجوا عليه، بس مش يغيروا مسار السفينة ويروحوا ينقذوه. Okay? Okay, so that's the end of this part. Thanks for watching. Now we will move to T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. Thank you very much.